Hello, and welcome to Writer Rant, author advice in 5 minutes or less because I have to get back to writing and so do you. So today I'd like to talk a little bit about reading. Obviously, as authors, we do a lot of writing, but on the flip side, you need to do a lot of reading too. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And the biggest one is kind of to figure out the structure of your own writing. If you don't do a lot of reading, you really won't know kind of the way that a lot of other authors put together their stories, and you really won't know, hey, this worked out really well, or oh, that kind of didn't work out. Because a lot of times, if we're so close to our own writing, we really don't see the flaws that are inside just the subconscious of our writing. So we definitely got to read a lot. I always suggest the classics. I mean, they're classics for a reason. A lot of times the cultural amount of the classics is kind of useful in knowing, especially if you're trying to write something historical, to kind of see, oh, what was the writing back then? What did it sound like? What did it look like? And kind of understanding those things. And kind of gives you a little bit of cred too, because you've read the classics, so clearly you know how to write because you know how the people whose stories have stood up through time have written, and that's a good place to start. You also want to read some new books, also to see kind of what's the pulse of today's reader, like what's good today, what's definitely in vogue for the books that are coming out, because especially if you're trying to write right now and you're trying to get people to buy your book, you got to know what people are into to really know how to market it. So that also brings up the idea of which books do you read? Do you read only the good books, or do you read only the bad books? I'd say it's probably a combination of the two. It's frustrating when people are like, oh, I only read great books. I'm like, well, that's great. It's good to always be into that kind of thing, but it's almost the bad books that give better perspective into your writing, because if you read something bad, if you can point out and figure out what it is that you don't like about it, then you can avoid that in your own writing. And as a matter of course, a lot of times bad writing, yeah, it's from the non-famous authors. So yeah, you want to read a bunch of the famous people, but try reading some unknowns, especially read some of your friends' stuff. I mean, obviously, if you've got a network of writer friends, hey, you got to hit them up. They've got some stuff, and it might not be the greatest, but it's definitely something that gets kind of you thinking, okay, how are these people writing? What are they thinking about? And just recognizing, yeah, what you don't like about it, because if you can recognize that in someone else's work, then you can recognize that in your own work. So, with that being said, happy reading. If there's anything that you as readers and writers are frustrated with right now, drop a comment below and maybe I'll get to it. This is Benjamin M. Weilert, and this has been Writer Rant. Thanks.